Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Frustrated Grad podcast. I am your host, Zach Hughes, the black dude who's wishing you a happy Mother's Day, and my co host who wants to tear your face off, writer, movie fan, wrestling fan, Tony Hoffman.
Face transplants are a thing now. I don't think they perfected it quite yet, but it's been done a couple of times, I think.
Yeah,
People have been mauled by monkeys and shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that Nicolas Cage has had his face transplanted several times, so it's working for him to some extent. Anyway, how was your week, Tony?
Work and sleep.
I
That's
didn't
what
hear
makes me complete.
I didn't hear any play in that exchange, so you have to remember that all work and sleep and no play make Tony a dull boy. So.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time to play with myself. It is always a sad thing.
It sure is. Well, on that note, it has nothing to do with that. My week was about average as well. Nothing spectacular.
Yeah, I mean,
garden
there were no
plot that I'm preparing.
Oh.
I mean,
community garden plot.
Yeah, I need to weed it, but
we all need to weed it.
Not in your way, you dirty man. But yeah, so I need to learn in very quick fashion how to grow plants.
Yesterday, I think the only eventful thing, my car battery is dead.
All right. How often do you use that car for that to make a difference?
Not often at all, to be honest. Probably drive it maybe once a week to do errands on the weekends when I have the time. I don't like driving.
So you said once a week. So I mean, that should be enough to keep it lively, because I know some people say you have to start up your car every now and then, even if you don't use it during the winter. But now with this weather, it shouldn't have been an issue. But
no,
get that checked out.
Yeah, it's a used car too. So
yeah,
battery only lasts for 5, 6 years or whatever, depending on how often you drive.
I never paid attention to that. I don't think I've ever changed a battery in a car. That's probably something I should think about. I've had my car a few years now.
Have you ever jump-started your car?
Yeah.
Fun times?
Yeah, I had to on 2 different occasions this past winter. I had to go and buy a jump starter from a Target because I was broken down near the same Target 2 different occasions. And I won't go into detail why, but I had to walk there, buy a jump starter, come back, jump start my car, and then go and return the jump starter. It wouldn't be the same day, but it was a little while later. But yeah, that good times. Those things are expensive though. I need to just find one in the off season when I know my car won't just die because of cold. I need to just buy one on sale.
How much was it, if you don't mind?
I think it was $70-something.
Fuck that.
Yeah, it was quite a strain, because it was okay, my car's broken down. I can sign up for AAA now and then wait an hour or pay about $20 more than signing up for AAA would be to jumpstart it myself.
This is one of the many reasons why I hate car ownership.
Yeah, it sucks. My advice is to travel within the radius of where you can walk or take public transportation. But sometimes in the suburbs, that's not an option.
Yeah, because I'm in the city, and it's almost having a car is kind of pointless. You can't drive anywhere because there's all the traffic and no parking, and just people stealing your shit and shit getting damaged. And
yeah. Oftentimes I'll wake up and in a cold sweat thinking about all of my lost CDs that were stolen from my car. Just
God,
sons of bitches.
But anyway,
Yeah,
enough of shop talk.
yeah. So what's in the news this week, or 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 what are some of the things that we've observed? Let's dive in.
Let's dive in. Was any of your favorite shows canceled this past week?
You know what? I have. It'll be an interesting thing to find out because I've only heard about some in passing. So I'm interested in getting into the full list of these canceled shows because I might be heartbroken live on air. I mean,
Were
this
you
is live.
Are you heartbroken that Last Man Standing, starring a conservative Tim Allen, was canceled?
No,
He's the last man standing. All the men, the real men, are dying, and like you gotta stop these gays and these blacks and these women, taking rights away.
yeah,
From
yeah. It was no Home Improvement. I mean, I never checked in to see if it was anything like
I mean,
Home Improvement, but
there's not a lot that is a Home Improvement. I mean, Home Improvement is like a masterpiece.
it's a once in a lifetime situation.
And thank God it happened during our lifetimes.
Yeah, it's a good like this. That's why the element of video in this podcast is important to me because like viewers might have seen my heart skip a beat as you said last man because I thought you were gonna say on Earth, and I was gonna fall out and die right here on air. But yeah, last man standing. I will shed no tears for that.
Dr. Ken, starring a former Community star Ken Jeong. Did you watch that?
I'm a fan of Ken Jeong, but this being a normal, like, I don't know what they call them, 3-camera sitcom, that turned me off of it because it's like, well, he was introduced into my life through like Hangover and Community, so it's just like, well, this is a step down from where you've come from. So I was already tuned out basically from the little previews.
It was like some shitty multi-camera family sitcom. So it's not made for me or us.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, do something like, not to stereotype, but do something more like Fresh Off the Boat and something more real. And I would have tuned in.
Not without the canned laughter from the studio audience.
Yeah, how long was that show on? It seemed like it's been a few years.
3 years?
I think
2 or 3 years?
Yeah, that's a good run for a show that I didn't think had legs to begin with.
On Friday night.
Yeah. Well, R.I.P. Dr. Ken.
R.I.P. Two Broke Girls.
That was one of the more surprising ones. I mean, I never know how to gauge this with CBS because like they'll tell me
because like some of these shows are like pulling in decent ratings for for network TV this day and age.
Yeah, they'll say like, "Oh, Big Bang Theory is the biggest show on television," and I'm like, "Really? This is like who is watching? Are there a bunch of dead people who left their TVs on?"
Pretty close old people.
Yeah, but like, why are they watching this? Like, why do they care about all these nerds making comic book references? Like,
because that's what they think that because one, it's a multi-camera laugh track Chuck Lorre sitcom, and two, it's just what they think nerds are like the most stereotypical.
So they use this to try to relate to their grandkids. They call them up and like,
who knows?
Bazinga! I don't get it.
You have the whole classic joke setup, the setup, punchline, the audience laughs.
Yeah.
Lather, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, it's like the thing about those is just that, like, okay, some of my favorite shows in history of television are those type of shows, but it's just like
definitely
when the time for something has passed.
But they're also funnier too.
Yeah, it's just like
your Cheers and Frasier and Seinfeld or
the now tainted Cosby Show, but like those shows were like I know, like that was of that time, and that was the best. I guess it was the best it's ever gonna be, because now it just feels like why are you doing this? Like I just can't get into those type of shows now because it only makes me miss the ones that were great.
Did you ever get a chance to catch up on Powerless?
Powerless. I think the very last time we talked about it on this podcast, which was
Was like
probably
the
a few
last
months
time.
ago, it was the
That was
last
like
time
the
I ever
first and
watched it.
last time. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a total I've seen 3 episodes. So that's on the list of long forgotten shows, which I was not surprised about. It's just like some of these shows I get excited about, but then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let season 1 go by because I'm worried. But Powerless was one of those shows where it's like, I know it's going to get canceled. Like, it's pretty obvious. And the funny thing is that ABC usually is the one that has the most of these. They're like, okay, here's a show that's gonna get canceled. It's just like written
Some
all
shitty
over.
sitcom, man.
It's like, it's pretty
Like,
obvious.
are you referring to like Imaginary Mary?
Yeah, that was just one of those ones. Just like, seriously, like this actually got greenlit. Just like
The Real O'Neills.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised by the Real O'Neills, but I couldn't get into it. Like, okay, maybe I'm just full on family sitcoms on ABC because like the cream of the crop rised, and then the other ones were just like, nah. Speaking of those shows, I can't even remember the other one, but what is the one with the parent of the handicapped child? Is that on this list?
Speechless.
I think that's it. Is that one of them?
That's they got renewed.
Okay, I'm surprised. I mean, there's factors why people wouldn't want to cancel that show right away. And
I've heard good things about it.
I mean, I'm hoping that it has that edge that'll make comedy out of what could be a dire situation. It just didn't seem very funny to me. I feel like I haven't seen great things from, I can't even remember the guy's name now, but the guy from Reno 911. I haven't seen him be good in anything since Reno 911.
His name is starts with Cedric. That was his name. Yeah, and I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I just know him as Big Eyes dude from Reno 911.
But yeah, are you gonna miss Son of Zorn?
I gave that show a couple episodes. I felt like it had potential, but it didn't go.
I hate Jason Sudeikis. So.
Why? He has the best running man. He's the best part of What's Up With That on SNL.
He just seemed like a real swarmy douche.
Well, to each his own. It's also a bad season if you're an American show, I guess you could say. Like American Crime, American Gothic. I don't even remember American Gothic, but like apparently it's gone. It's gone as quickly as it arrived.
Because I'm like looking at some of these names, I'm like, I remember most of them like vaguely. What the hell is American Gothic?
I have no idea. And another show I had no idea about, like, there's going to be a running theme of CBS on this list, but like Brain Dead, I could not understand for the life of me what that show was about. I didn't know if it was about zombies or politics.
Politics or aliens. It was like these aliens masquerading as politicians, and they would.
Okay.
Or they were something about ants and like brains or some shit.
Yeah, I would keep hearing like, because I was trying to understand what the show's about without watching it. So I would hear like okay, it sounds like some kind of zombie thing, and then they said something about ants. I'm like, ants. Wait, what? And then I would hear about politics. I'm like, is this the same show you're telling me about? It's just like it never made sense, and I guess it never will.
And it was made by the people who did The Good Wife too.
Okay, I never watched The Good Wife, so I can't speak to their quality. The Blacklist Redemption, was that a spinoff of the Blacklist itself? Yeah, because I had heard a little bit about that.
I don't remember it at all.
Yeah, like Blacklist is always a show where I've been on the verge of checking it out, but never did.
Cancel. I can't like a long time. But early in the season, the TV season. I don't even remember who was on the damn show.
Yeah, I don't know. because I guess it wasn't the main people from the Blacklist, but there's some kind of connection, some thread there. But yeah, R.I.P. I'm trying to see if there's anything that actually is going to make it. Go ahead.
AB on Fox.
Yeah.
You remember that show?
I remember
in Chicago
commercials for it. Yeah, like futuristic Chicago police drones is basically the theme of that show.
Ernie Hudson.
Oh, I didn't know he was involved. I would have tuned into any show that featured my favorite black Ghostbuster. Out of the two there are to choose from.
Oh, even more than Leslie Just.
Yeah. I'm going to disconnect with you real quick and call back because I'm here getting some distortion. But while I do that, I'm going to talk about Celebrity Name Game because that is a show that I don't think anybody even watched. It's pretty missable, and no RIP to Celebrity Name Game. Also, Conviction was another show that was canceled, which starred Haley Atwell, who you may know as Agent Carter. Agent Carter was, like, it's sad to me because that was one of Marvel's best shows on television, but it just didn't get the chance to expand and continue its life. So that makes me sad. So RIP Conviction, but maybe that'll mean a return for Agent Carter. So let's just hope for that in the future. Doubt. That show makes me think of I think there was, I don't know if the movie won an Oscar, but there was a movie by that same name, which was about pedophilia in the Catholic Church. I don't think this TV show on CBS, Doubt, was connected to that movie at all, but if it was, that would speak to why it didn't get picked up or didn't continue its life, because like it's not something people want to tune in every week to watch a show about. I really doubt that they would be into Doubt that in that way. As I'm going through these, I'm trying to reconnect with my co-host Tony, but it seems to be having some real issues with his connection. So I'm wondering if Tony. Like I said, as I'm going through this, I'm trying to reconnect. So are you there? Hello?
Yes, I am.
It's still pretty distorted. But
Hello?
Hello? I was saying it's still pretty distorted.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
No. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How about
Oh?
you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Try to hang up and call back again, because it's still pretty jankety. So, as I said, we were trying to reconnect, but there seems to be some trouble on Tony's side. I'm gonna blame him and not myself. For the audio listeners, sorry about the Skype noises, because the way I record this, it doesn't seem to be a very easy way to mute the desktop audio. I guess I could do it this way, but yeah. So maybe when I reconnect with my co-host, it won't be as loud as it was previously. But yeah, the show must go on. So Frequency was another show that was canceled. It was a show on the CW. It involved time travel and I guess some kind of freaky two-way radio, or where a daughter was able to connect with her father who died in the 90s, and by them communicating with each other somehow, because the daughter was communicating with the past, she was in effect changing the future, which is an interesting concept. So I'm curious about where they left off with that show, because these shows that always get canceled, I tend to get interested in the trajectory. But let me see if Tony is back on the line. Hello. It doesn't seem to be the case. But yeah, like I was saying, with Frequency, it doesn't seem to be one of those shows that had a long life in it, but I was curious about the story when I first heard about it. But I don't think the actors involved were really catching my attention like that, so that's probably what hurt it. Maybe with some other people too, because I don't think it was one of those shows that the star power leapt off the screen and really called out for you to want to tune in just for those characters. And I find sometimes, and this is still prejudging it, I would say, shows with limited casts where you only focus on a couple of people, those are tough shows to carry off. Hello, Tony Hoffman. All right, Tony is back. So I was just talking about Frequency. Did you know anything about that show? Did you tune in?
Frequency. I didn't watch it, and apparently nobody else did because it got canceled.
Yeah, it was involving like a two-way radio where a daughter was able to talk to her father who had died in the 90s. So it's kind of like a time travel slash sci-fi-ish type of thing, but it didn't seem to have...
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it was like when I saw the previews for it, the concept was interesting, but I just didn't think the actors involved were anybody that were like, that jumped out of the screen at me like, okay, I'm like, I don't know, it's just something about certain actors, just like, okay, maybe I'll tune in eventually, but I guess I was too late. I could have helped them out, but alas, we will not see what happened. I wonder how this show ended off, because I always think about these shows that get canceled. Like, did they have a contingency plan? Like, okay, this would be a good way to wrap up this entire series if we ended it. But I mean, I guess
you have to assume that you'll be coming back. Always assume you'll be renewed.
Yeah, like that's why I always say, like, film an episode where like there's a huge bomb that goes off and then like it just flashes white. So it's like, if you don't come back, then you can explain it away and say, well, they all died. And if you do, you can just say like, oh, that was a crazy dream I just had. Just like, oh, there you go. Like, we can move on with the story. Now I'm trying to see.
Are you gonna? Did you ever watch an episode of the Great Indoors?
No, it was one of those shows that made me really sad. Like, it was a situation where I could see like a progression, but like I could see us drifting apart. Like, I see Joel McHale. I loved him from The Soup and Community, and he, like, the impression I got was that he basically quit doing The Soup in order to branch out and become a bigger star, and this was part of that. But I was just like, no, please, like, this wasn't the best choice for you. And like, I wanted to watch the show and I wanted to like it just because he was involved, but I was like, it's a multi-camera sitcom. And then like I heard like clips from the show just like, oh, you millennials, da. It's just like, no,
Jesus,
like, millennials love you, Joel McHale. Why would you do this to us? But yeah, so I'm not gonna miss that one. Hopefully he'll find a better vehicle for his talent, because think he's a funny dude, and he was being wasted on that show.
Yeah, I'm watching a Face Off right now on the TV with the volume down, and they're doing the whole face transplant
See,
thing.
see,
Disgusting.
that was the bad luck aspect of this podcast. It's like when you pull someone's face off, the Skype gets disconnected. So yeah, so there you go. There's a new superstition for you.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the logistics of this. How they pull the face off and they put in some liquid.
Yeah, and you're able to switch faces between people whose heads are drastically different sizes, and their body types are nowhere similar, but they're able to mimic each other perfectly. It's always one of those things you're just like suspend your disbelief. like
The Morris Chestnut driven Rosewood is no more.
Yeah, that show just seemed like Black Bones, and I don't know if like not the type of Black Bones people were searching for in Google, but yeah, so I'm not surprised by that. Yeah, Secrets and Lies. I had no idea what that show was about.
That was the one with Ryan Phillippe, or am I thinking
that
of something
sounds
else?
familiar. Yeah, I think so.
And what's her name? Juliette Lewis.
Okay. Yeah, I think I remember that now. It was kind of like an off-brand version of, and it's funny to say off-brand with this, but like Broadchurch from the BBC. It's one of those shows where it's like this guy is suspected of this crime. Although Broadchurch was more of it was like a mystery. We didn't know who did it, but it was kind of she was hunting this guy down. It's also a bad season for time travel shows because there's Time After Time and Making History. There may be something else in there, but at least those two I know were both time travel shows that got canceled.
Timeless originally got canceled on
there you go.
Friday.
There you go. So then it all fits into the theme.
But the big story yesterday was that they changed their mind and they brought it back.
No. They went back in time and saved themselves. That's what they did.
Everybody made those jokes.
Yeah. Well, it's parallel thinking. Don't Amy Schumer me.
Parallel hacky thinking. Yeah. They're gonna bring it back. I think it's like 10 episodes or something. Like at some point.
Well, like a 10-episode finale season, or is it just gonna continue?
I assume that if it does is okay, they'll keep it going.
All right. That's one of those things where it's just like a course correction in the industry as a whole, because it's like there's always those times where people put out parallel shows. Just like I had that parallel thought. It's just like, hey, time travel's hot. Let's everybody do a show about it. It's like, no. Like I'm interested, but now you've screwed the idea too much. It's just like, okay, they did Time After Time, then it was the whichever this timeless show is just like there clearly was somebody pitching this idea everywhere and everyone said yes. Making History was actually the one that I chose out of these three because it was a comedy and it was pretty funny for the like 3 episodes I watched. But now
how did they get around the fact that like his buddy was like the black dude and they were like traveling in the past and shit? Like how did they even
I guess we'll never
deal
know.
With that?
I mean, I watched a few episodes and that was an idea around it, just like, what's this slave doing loose? But I didn't see them go anywhere but to like the Revolutionary War, which was pretty dicey time for this black dude to be showing up.
Any time before 1980 is a pretty dicey time.
Yeah. In America for sure. So yeah, I don't know how they got around that in the grand scheme of things because they kept going to the same time. So I don't know if they ever went to the future or anything like that. But that's one thing that I think these time travel shows mess up with. They keep focusing on events in the past. And then they don't ever do a convincing enough job of showing me like how those things changed. Because like with the butterfly effect, there has to be massive changes based on you even being in the past. But they always like cheap out on that. It's just like, okay, we need to have the same cast of characters involved when they come back. So we can't tangle ourselves too much in this writing so that the entire season would be spent undoing this situation. So like time travel is always iffy, especially in TV because of budgetary constraints, and they're not gonna cast 1,000 different people to play. Like, okay, because you were in this timeline, butterfly, butterfly, butterfly. This person born from these two people isn't even the person you know. It's just like there's all kinds of factors that should be thought about.
Did you ever watch? Weren't you a fan of Emerald Sing?
No, I attempted to stick with it, but then it was just like so dark and so gloomy. It's just like I realized to myself about 3 episodes in, I was just like, you know what? I don't even care about the Wizard of Oz mythology enough to watch this super dark take on it. It's like one of these mutated, distorted versions of the Wizard of Oz characters is a boy who apparently was really a girl, and I'm just wondering like what is this child going to ask the wizard for? Like those type of questions arising in the weekly episodes. I'm just like, I don't know if I want to watch this anymore. Like it's not appealing to my childlike sense of wonder that was sparked by the original Wizard of Oz. It was just it was kind of trampling on all of that.
Looking at some of these like cable streaming shows, did you ever watch that show Not Safe with Nikki Glazer on the Comedy Central? Was that good or not?
I watched a couple of them.
But is that like an Amy Schumer type deal? Or?
Yeah, I guess it was similar. Well, no, it was more along the lines of, I guess this is another reason why it was probably canceled. It was more along the lines of like that short-lived Hannibal Buress show, Why. It was more of like it was kind of an examination. There's not really a very defined genre of.
Gee, I wonder why this show got canceled.
It's just like, okay, I'm talking about this topic. It's kind of Daily Show style, like, but it wasn't about.
Not funny.
It wasn't from somebody who was informed about like politics or anything like that. So it was kind of like a general interest examination weekly show. So it didn't have much legs to it. It was kind of like I think Chelsea Handler did something like that before she did her regular,
and that was
Netflix
terrible.
show.
That was on
yeah.
E! I remember that. That was her first dumbass show.
Yeah, so it didn't really seem to work, and it was interesting, like a behind the curtain type thing to see. I listened to, it was some interview with Hannibal Buress. I think it was with Joe Rogan. But he basically went into like why his show Why failed. Just like, well, we didn't really have direction around it, and like I just did it because they offered it to me. It's just like I didn't really have a motivation in a focus with the show. So it was interesting to hear that from somebody, because a lot of people wouldn't want to just admit that. So I don't know if this was the case with the Nikki Glazer show. It seemed to be a little more inspired, but it still didn't have much of a direction to it from what I seen of it. But yeah.
Yeah. The Man Seeking Woman was a show that always looked interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm surprised about that one. I actually watched I think it's pronounced Baruchel. Jay Baruchel. He's in a lot of Seth Rogen movies. You will notice him from that. He's one of those.
Directed
guys.
Goon, one of my favorite recent movies.
Oh, I did not know that. But yeah, I think I've only watched 1, maybe 2 episodes of Man Seeking Woman, but it was something that I wanted to follow up on. It was kind of in the vein of something like Wilfred. It was a surreal comedy where like you would see things that weren't real. Like he went on a first date with someone who was literally a gremlin. It was just like how you would describe a situation to your friends is how the show would depict events. Like oh, here's my new boyfriend Hitler, and it was literally Hitler was her ex-girlfriend. His ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend was literally Hitler because that's how he saw him. So I like that aspect of the show. So that's probably one of those cancel shows like similar to Better Off Ted, where it's just like, well, I'm gonna watch it anyway because it looked funny. So that's
Like,
probably one I'll revisit. And Eric Andre was involved, and he seemed to be kind of like the real Eric Andre in real life, was just this crazy dude. So that's interesting to me to see how that worked together.
like so many of these shows, like I never really had an opportunity to watch like
Yeah,
most of them because I was so busy, and like there's so many other shows and
yeah.
stuff.
It kind of falls into that argument of that some people have made. We're at peak TV. Like there's so much that you can't really watch everything. So like sometimes a show getting canceled is like the best thing that can happen to it. It's just like, oh, it's gonna have a greater life now that somebody, like, at least you've seen its name now. Like if the show just kept running and nobody remarked on it, then some of these shows would go by the wayside anyway. And it kind of reminds you that they exist. Like Doubt, which I'm still wondering if it was connected to the Oscar-winning movie about pedophilia in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, because that was my association with it. I'm like, they made a show about that? Like, who's gonna watch that every week? But I don't know if that was exactly what it was. But that's the problem when you have these like single named movies, that it's very easy to associate something else with them if just that single name shows up again. But you know, is there anything else remarkable about this list? I don't think there was anything else that was on my radar really. Besides,
Girls Meet World Meets World is one of your favorites.
I know some people who were excited for that show, and I think it was on the bubble for quite a while, but I never was into it because I wasn't that into Boy Meets World originally. It was one of those shows that back in the old days of just watching what was on TV. It was one of those shows that I watched because it was on, but it wasn't something that was like, oh, Mr. Feeney, I can't wait to see him come back or anything like that. Just like Fuller House. It's just like, nah, I'm good. I do not. This is out of my nostalgia bucket. All you other white people can have that.
Blunt Talk with Patrick Stewart on Stars.
I heard about that. I had no idea what it was about. Like, did he just smoke blunts and talk to people about the world, man?
It was like Seth MacFarlane that like created the show. It was like he was like this political. He was like this cable news talking head, and he was like
that's just kind of like a Glenn Beck, O'Reilly Factor parody comedy thing,
something like that.
Okay, I mean, sounds kind of interesting knowing that, but it's gone now. I see more. I've only begun to look at the cable streaming shows. Maybe these are some things that'll be more interesting to me. And no idea what Eyewitness is. Oh, Brad Neely's Hard Nailing Schlopio Pipio. Actually, I did. I mean, I was about to say I did just speak English. I don't know what language that is, but I did actually watch the show. It was one of those weird shows on Adult Swim, which I didn't know Adult Swim canceled shows. I didn't know it was possible to get canceled on Adult Swim, but I liked that because it was kind of like, it was one of those weird like project shows where I don't know if this was always the basis of it, but they would take like audio and just animate to it. So it was kind of, I don't think everything like the animation and like the audio that was it was illustrating was always connected. It was just like it's kind of like how some people will animate segments of podcasts or things like that. So the stuff they did with that I thought was interesting, but I'll
what the hell is
revisit it.
$1 Million Extreme presents World Peace on Adult Swim.
Oh, that's another one. It was another just weird ass show. I'm trying to think how to. It's the closest thing you could compare it to is like Tim and Eric, but in many ways it was better, but in other ways it was worse. It's like it was weird. It was if like dirtbag guys did the Tim and Eric shtick. So it was kind of like there were these like obscure weird surreal jokes, but then like occasionally there'd be like a a racist character in the sketch. This is like a weird, just like it'd be hard to explain, but it always ended like with the hardcore rock song. That was always the end of the episode. It's just like everybody rocking out to this band. It's just
that sounds like something I would be interested in.
You should check out an episode or two. I mean, because these shows are all just 15 minutes or whatever. So it's worth it. It's worth tuning in because like I would see the commercials for it during the Eric Andre show. It's just like, okay, I guess I gotta watch this. Like, I don't know what is going on in this show, but yeah, I'm surprised. Again, surprised you can get canceled on Adult Swim. What else?
Yeah, so that's like that's really like the only thing of note.
Yeah, because I'm surprised by Marco Polo on Netflix. That was supposed to be their Game of Thrones. It was not good. I watched one episode and fell asleep several times. Loosely, exactly, Nicole. I never watched this show, but like I had seen trailers for it, and it looked like modern day blackface. So I'm glad it was canceled.
What the fuck was it about?
It was just like a fat, goofy girl whose character was she's fat and goofy. It was like Black Melissa McCarthy on TV. Speaking of which, Melissa McCarthy hosted SNL last night.
Yeah, you watch?
Yeah, it was a pretty decent episode.
I assume there was lots of Sean Spicer.
It was just kind of one long Sean Spicer sketch where that footage that came out earlier this week of her dressed as Sean Spicer riding her podium through the New York streets. That's what that was part of. She was filming as part of a segment.
And like
SNL spoilers.
She was the host of the episode, even though she's been on lots of episodes.
Yeah, kind of like Baldwin. Yeah, kind of like when Alec Baldwin hosted, and last season when Larry David hosted after playing Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, it's like they're cast members pretty much taking airtime away from the actual cast members.
They're taking their jobs. I feel like this season, probably more than some others, I've seen featured players incorporated into sketches better, because there were some, like, I feel like in previous seasons there were some featured players you just wonder, like, is this person still employed? Like, I'll look and be like, they're not even there for the good nights or whatever. So so I feel like they're trying to integrate people a little bit better. I still think Alex Moffat is not gonna make it, because playing a Trump son is not the most secure job position, I think, unless he really develops his Anderson Cooper impression. And that's it for my SNL examination for this week. O'Reilly Factor. It's funny they put that on the list. Like, yeah, I guess you could say it's technically canceled. I think they're still using that branding though, like The Factor. It's kind of like how they did with Larry King Tonight. It's just like, okay, let's put somebody else's name in there.
Piers Morgan Tonight.
Yeah. So Salem.
Who was the musical guest?
Oh, it was Haim, however you pronounce the extremely tall, long-haired chicks whose music was everywhere like 2 years ago, I think. I remember it had a few songs that were like in Target commercials and all kinds of different things that were just like, I was really annoyed by their existence a little while ago, but
that's I'm gonna take what you just said. I was annoyed by their existence.
Yeah, but now they've washed away to a relative obscurity that is I can handle. But yeah, there's just the tallest woman in that group, and I think they're supposed to all be sisters, but the tallest one of them, she always makes these like weird facial expressions.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
Just like stop. But yeah.
So you've had like her performing, and then you had like a guy from LCD Sound System.
Yeah. They should just join, and it would be a super shit group. Because that's it's weird. I I still keep getting people liking that tweet I made about last week's episode, how crazy the guy was dancing in the background. It's like I think it's up to like 120 something likes. Just I guess that really related to people. Like it spoke to them. Like, it's like this guy dances weird, and I'm glad someone else noticed it. Much like I noticed a smudge on Michael Chase's forehead throughout almost the entire segment of Weekend Update, which was very distracting.
Is next week the finale?
Yeah, with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and musical guest Katy Perry. One of those I will enjoy. I'll let you.
Yeah,
guess.
a couple of up and comers looking for a shot at the mainstream.
Yeah. I'm not looking forward to anything that Katy Perry is bringing to the table with her schizophrenic music style that's just basically trying to jump on whatever's popular at the moment.
Exactly.
Like hey,
Madonna did it well.
Or hey, this song with Sia and Sean Paul did pretty good. I'm just gonna clone it and make a song about dancing that is not danceable at all. But that's beside the point.
Her Miley Cyrus do.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of Miley Cyrus, I guess we could talk about this on the podcast. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But Miley Cyrus.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, spoiler alert, she says she's done with hip hop. Which, like, I didn't know she was really involved in hip hop at all. But that was her announcement. I think it was sometime last week. She said she's not going to be involved with hip hop anymore because it's misogynistic, which is very hypocritical, because the one thing I can even think of her being involved with hip hop artists was a video where she's just grinding her ass all over the screen. She's like, well, you're kind of degrading yourself in this video. I don't think that was like, and plus like you're calling out an entire genre for what certain artists take part in. So I would never characterize hip hop as misogynistic, because you could say that about any genre of music depending on which artist
you're
talking about.
What a stupid asshole.
Yeah, so it's just like, well, we won't miss you.
Exactly.
Miley Cyrus, like you weren't invited. It's just like barging into a Klan rally. You're like, you know what? I'm leaving. It's like, all right. Like we didn't
how will hip hop survive?
Yeah.
Without Miley.
Yeah. She was the best twerker. She taught all of the black girls to twerk. What will they do now? Anyway, had to address that. It was the elephant in the room. Everyone was thinking it. But yeah. Speaking of hip hop artists, I'll talk about one of my favorite hip hop artists who does multiple things besides just being an artist. He's also a writer, an actor. Of course, I'm talking about Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino. He's doing another very cool thing. Like when you posted about this on Facebook, I was just like Donald Glover does everything right. Like everything that I enjoy, like he's involved in some kind of way. So what's this new thing he's doing?
So I think it's him and his brother Steven. They're gonna show run this untitled Deadpool animated show on I think it's gonna be on FXX next year, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. An animated Deadpool show. Yeah,
it's funny they call it an untitled Deadpool show. Like
what
you could just assume it's called Deadpool. Just like it's a safe guess. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
No casting news or anything announced because it's still in the early stages. But
it's funny just when I assume like, okay, Donald Glover's involved in a Deadpool show. It's just like, well, I'm already picturing Donald Glover as Deadpool. It's like, that'll be interesting take on it. Like he's been Spider-Man. He's been the Miles Morales Spider-Man. So I would be interested in just
Wade Wilson
hearing that
Deadpool.
Yeah, yeah. That's always the funny thing for me. Those alliterative comic book names: Miles Morales, Wade Wilson, Peter Parker, Clark Kent. Just like I like that trope in comics. Like I would have to find a last name that started with a Z if I ever wanted to be a real superhero. Zeus. uh, but yeah, so I'm excited for this new Deadpool project. It furthers the disconnection between like the Fox Marvel universe and the Marvel proper cinematic universe, but it's still I'm still going to be entertained by it. But I do picture like when I go into my behind the scenes thinking mind, I'm wondering like in like Ultimate Spider-Man, they basically had every character to their disposal. But I'm thinking like for this Fox Deadpool story, like are they limited in who can get
X-Force stuff
involved?
probably.
Yeah, like X-Force. Can Spider-Man show up because he's in another corner of the
I
Marvel
doubt it.
properties, and then like so I'm wondering about that. I mean, I guess he's more closely associated with X-Men characters, so I guess you can hone in on that, Cable and all that stuff. So that'd be
What do you
interesting.
think about like I don't think I'm not a big fan of the Deadpool character in the comic books because I pretty much think his comics are shit.
Okay.
What do you think about Deadpool as a
I mean, I really only know him as a general pop culture figure, as just like um more of a meme, and like I've seen like to ruin some of my nerd cred. I don't think I've read one full like run of a Deadpool comic book. I've just I've seen the movie. I've seen some of the stuff from the cartoons and stuff like that. And I've watched like things like explaining the character, but I've never really dived into the Deadpool character in the comics. So
he's just basically just like this really annoying quipster and
yeah,
stuff. Like once you get past that, there isn't like much story to like any of the Deadpool comics.
yeah, because that's one thing I've wondered about, and maybe it's kept me away from it. Because I always think like, well, he knows he's in a comic book, so what is the
Fourth
conflict?
wall break. Yeah, exactly,
Like,
exactly.
can't he like couldn't he just like reach into the other panels and erase his enemies? It's just like what is his limitation as a character? So yeah, that's always been something I've thought about. So
And he was never like Rob Liefeld. Like he created. He was never meant to be like a superhero. He was just meant to be sort of like he
like
was originally he was supposed to be just like a villain,
yeah,
like Marvel's version
like
of
a
Deathstroke.
Deathstroke
Yeah,
parody
Slade
type of
Wilson, Wade Wilson.
yeah. Um, so it'll be interesting. I guess maybe they'll have to pull back on some of the fourth wall stuff to add conflict or to um, to draw out some stories. So I'll be interested in seeing how they play that out because I feel like it was done well in the movies. In the movie, we'll see how the next one goes, but so I'll be uh, anticipating it because it's funny because most of what I've known about Deadpool before the first movie came out was that uh, about how divisive the character was. It was like all I knew about it was like some people loved him and they would basically troll other people. Like uh, I know the YouTube channel called Comics Explained. Now it used to be Marvel Explained. He would talk about like everybody's asking me to talk about Deadpool, but I don't really want to. So like that's really all I knew about it. Just like he had a rabid fan base, and then there were some other people who like were counter fans to that extent. So yeah, so we'll see how this Deadpool story is handled. Um, I think Donald Glover is a capable writer, so I'm excited to see what he does with it.
Sure. Did
Um,
you see? Have you seen this teaser for the Bryan Singer X-Men show?
I
I
yeah, I
have not.
saw it briefly. I
What
don't
the hell
really.
was it?
It seemed
I doubt they
like
showed much.
yeah, I'm hazy on my memory of it. I don't think there was a whole lot of action in it, but it seemed to me to be maybe too similar to that Cloak and Dagger preview that I had seen. Like it seemed like a teen X-Men type of situation. So
The full trailer comes out tomorrow, I think.
Okay.
That's what
Yeah, because I know there's been a lot of these things now that just like, oh, here's a teaser for the trailer, and then they'll announce the date for the trailer release. It's like, what? What the hell is this? Like, and a thing they're doing on YouTube with like some movie trailers now is they'll show like a quick clip from the trailer before it starts, and then you'll see that clip again in the trailer. Just like, what it like. My attention span isn't that short. Like, I need them to ease up on some of this stuff.
Apparently, these shows are going to be linked
to the X-Men universe, which is
the movies.
Yeah,
that's not good.
Yeah, it's already the most convoluted universe, time wise and everything else wise. It's just like, how are you? Like, I feel like if somebody was like, because I've seen like timelines where people draw out like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they'll even insert like episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, okay, this is between these two movies and da 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 da. But like, I feel like if somebody did that for the Marvel X-Men Fox universe, it would just be like a knot. It's just like, okay, this event happened here, and then there's another timeline where this was canceled out, and then this proceeded into this story. It's just like, I'm just gonna act like they're not associated, because like, who really cares about how these events affected those terrible movies?
Yeah.
So yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So what else is in the news? There was, speaking of TV, somebody who has almost every job in television, Steve Harvey, is he's been in the news a couple times within the past week or so. For one, he moved his show from Chicago to Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, this has been announced like for about a year or so, that because he wants to interview interview like celebrities and have, I guess, like a traditional shitty daytime show.
Yeah, he saw the success guys were like Dr. Phil were having with their celebrity guests. And,
yeah, exactly.
He wanted a piece of that, because
who the hell watches his show?
I have no idea. Like, apparently it must be a draw. I mean, you know, these shows, they appeal to the people who, for some reason, are
the unemployed.
Some reason
watch daytime TV.
Yeah, and the people who can go out and stand outside and wait for the show. I mean, I know that's how Windy City Live works, where you just basically, if you're there first, then you'll get in. So I'm assuming the show is something like that, but it's not here anymore. And he fired his entire staff,
which is extremely shitty.
Yeah, it's just like, how much would it be to relocate all these people? I'm sure a lot of people will pay their own way to get.
But then he has to hire a whole new staff in LA.
Yeah, it's like that. That seems like an unnecessary addition to your overhead expenses, but I mean, that's the decision he decided to make. And after that story came out, I guess maybe a disgruntled employee, I don't know who leaked this this memo that he sent to everyone, and I guess this was sometime before everyone would eventually be fired. But the gist of it is, don't approach me, don't knock on my dressing room door, don't show up in my dressing room, don't talk to me on the backstage. It's just like a lot of things along those lines.
See, I think that the whole issue here is that there might have been like an issue where people were doing stuff like that.
Yeah, it was funny because like, and I think our friend Matt Murtaugh addressed this, but it was just like, I kind of get where he's coming from with this.
But the problem is that he just worded this fucking memo wrong. Horribly wrong.
Yeah, like, I'm reading between the lines of the dickishness of it, but I'm just like, well, it's pretty clear that he's stating like, well, these type of loose associations with me have been abused in the past, and I'm trying to tighten things up.
He's an idiot in terms of like, making this memo.
Yeah, like, we know he has trouble with words.
He's pretty stupid.
Whether it's writing words or reading them off of cards, we know he oftentimes has trouble
Yeah.
with these things. So,
but yet he's a best-selling author of telling
best-selling author and has
women how to be women.
Yeah, and has a job where he reads lines on television like 3 times a day, pretty much. But yeah, so it's
if you watch him on like the Family Feud, he'll sometimes fuck up. But when they're doing like the final round part, where he has to like read the questions, he'll fuck up the questions, and they'll have to like repeat himself. Or at the end, after the time has ran out, they'll do like an untimed thing where he'll like say the question, and they'll give the contestant time to give their answer.
Yeah, so I'll like that's one of the.
It's pretty bad, actually.
Yeah, that's why it's always one of the things they can go back to, like with Keenan on SNL. It's just like I'll just do, in kind of his take on his impression of Steve Harvey isn't necessarily always the fucking up stuff, but it's just like the crazy reactions he has. But like that's always a safe place to go because he's so odd and dumb that he's right for these type of embarrassments. So
on Family Feud, like when someone will give him like an answer to like one of the survey things, like he like everybody else knows what it is, but he doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
So then he'll have to like ask the judge or something, like some common like what type of flower does these smell the best? And like somebody they'll name like a flower that may be obscure to him because he's fucking country. He's fucking country and ghetto and shit.
Petunia.
Like, God,
yeah.
What is that? Like,
yeah. So I'm not like that. That's why I was saying earlier to somebody, they're like, what do you think about this memo? I was just thinking like, that's the least offensive thing about Steve Harvey, in my opinion. There's so many other things that I have issues with. So
have you ever had any like close encounters with, or know anyone who's ever worked with near him?
Steve Harvey? I'm probably like through like 6 degrees of separation. Probably know somebody who was involved in the Steve Harvey show, but nobody I could think of off the top of my head. I know I'm sure people from Columbia have ended up on that staff, but just nothing that jumps out at me.
I still can't believe like people still like listen to this little shitty radio show.
Yeah, like I don't even know, is it syndicated anywhere in our market?
I think it's on like V103 or
okay. Well,
GCF. Like, there's like this.
I'm not quite old enough to have that on my presets, so
this is the second Steve Harvey radio show because the first one he did was here in Chicago in the 90s, and I think he only did that just to do like research for that stupid sitcom that he had because he left
I don't often listen to morning radio in general, and
I don't listen to radio.
That show's really just reminds me of like something my mom would be listening to as she drove me to Christian school. Just like the Tom Joyner morning show when they used to have their radio soap opera, It's Your World. And do
you remember that? Who thinks that this is entertaining? Black radio.
I remember being entertained by that, but just because I liked radio drama. I don't remember anything specifically about It's Your World, but I enjoy radio drama. That's why I listen to fictional podcasts nowadays.
I just remember the birthday song on Like Love in This Day.
Is today your birthday? Yes, it is. You know it is. And how old are you on this day? I'm 13. I'm 13. Go, Keisha. It's your birthday. Go, Keisha. It's your birthday. Where you from? Southside. Where you from? Southside. Bad boys gotta say bye-bye. Happy birthday from WGC. I had no idea I remembered that song. It just clicked into my head. Like, yeah, I heard that like 1,000 times. I'm sure.
Exactly. Fucking hammered into your brain.
See, that's one of those things that if that showed up on Facebook, like only 90s kids would remember this, so just be like, yes, like it completely slipped my mind until you reminded me of that.
What was it? It was like at 8:45 or 9:45.
It was something like that. It was like it was like in the time where you actually would turn to the radio at a specific time. Like I'm not in the car, but I do want to hear this segment. Like, yeah, I think the Bad Boy Radio I actually listen to like in my house, which is like nobody can draw me to a radio like that anymore because they're not hiring people for personality. I don't know what they're hiring people for nowadays.
You remember on the, I think it was like the top 10 countdown on B96 at 9 o'clock, or top 5 or whatever, the top 5 pop songs or whatever they would.
I can't even remember. I don't.
That was pure 90s. I was all the
Yeah.
fucking Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera's.
Yeah, I think where I consumed all that stuff was Total Request Live,
Yeah.
where you would only see like half of a video. Like, you would hear like
1
the
minute.
first verse into the hook, and then they were like, "We're back on Total Request Live." It's just like, okay, if you really like those songs, this is not the show to watch. But yeah, memories.
I'm trying to think like the morning shows that I liked. It was like,
I used to like Man Cow, but that was just like in terms of being like an off-brand Howard Stern. Like, he's talking about boobies. I can only imagine what those boobies look like.
That's like something you listen to at a certain age.
Yeah, like I feel like junior high school was prime time for me listening to Man Cow and Howard Stern. But like I didn't know about Howard Stern until like right at the tail end of his tenure.
I got into him that was like 98.
Yeah.
And then until like he left, like it was like 04, I think.
And it's funny, it's like so many people love Howard Stern, and I feel like
and he wouldn't give a shit about you.
Yeah, but like I feel similar about him as I do about like David Letterman. It's like a lot of people love him, but I'm just like I'm removed from that, so he's just like another person to me. It's just like, okay, he's a famous radio guy, but I haven't heard enough for me to join in with the opinion of he's the best interviewer ever, which I've heard a lot of people say.
That's so off.
Like I don't know about that.
He gets people to open up and talk about certain things.
It's like I feel like I've enjoyed interviews by Adam Carolla more than the interviews I've heard by Howard Stern, but like Adam Carolla doesn't get the big guests that he gets, so like I don't know. Anyway.
Ramsey Lewis and I forget who his co-host was, but that was always good back on the old WNUA in the mornings.
See, you listen to more like smooth black radio than I did.
WNUA
95.5. I started listening
to Vince Giraldi Trio.
Yeah, I started listening to WNUA as I started working part-time at my current job, like during college. And then it was like right around the time where it eventually got flipped.
Lele or what the fuck it is?
Yeah, Lale is it a Mexican station now? Just like I was finally starting to get into like, you know what? I like smooth jazz.
Rick O'Dell.
Yank. So there that goes.
And there's no station like that anymore. That sucks. No. You don't have that job.
No, they have like it's part of why iHeartMedia needs to crumble and fall, because like there's like all of those frequencies have been snatched up by stuff that's on other stations already.
I was reading something, I think it was like Robert Feeder's blog, was talking about how they're already like they fired like some part-time people at like Kiss FM, and they're probably like in the next phase of making, you know, some layoffs and shit. So
it's funny because it's like it's a mixed emotion that I have about that, because like, yeah, I know a lot of people are employed by iHeartMedia, so I don't want them to lose their jobs, but I would like for some of those extra stations to kind of be sloughed off. It's just like we didn't need a Kiss and a B96, but it's just like, I don't want you guys to lose your jobs. Maybe you guys can consolidate staff because you're all basically doing the same thing.
And they're like, and they're bemoaning like, oh, the problem with radio is that there isn't enough personalities in fucking radio. Well, actually they are. It's just that you fire.
They're not being hired. They're like, the personalities that you have deemed worthy are being aired on multiple stations at the same time. So it's just
they suck.
Yeah, it's just like there's some like, I don't know if this like I'll turn to Kiss FM and I'm like, is that Ryan Seacrest or is this just a sound alike that they got to sound like Ryan Seacrest? Because it's just like, I don't think he's on in the afternoons, but this really sounds like Ryan Seacrest. I don't know who the guy is, but it's just like, I don't like this. There's a certain sound that works in certain markets, but it doesn't work in Chicago. It's just like,
no,
like did for people who work in radio, and involved in music, there are a lot of tone deaf decisions that are being made across the country, which is just like, if you want to syndicate something to my area, how about like the Breakfast Club or one of Hot 97 shows? Like that would be something that I could relate to, being a hip hop fan or something like that. It's just like, I don't want to hear all these California people or just random bland personalities. Like who was the focus group that said, hey, you know who would really hit in Chicago? Ricky Smiley. Just like, I don't care about him doing prank calls as an old church lady. Like what is this? But you know, that enough about radio.
Yeah.
Because maybe one day I want one of those people to hire me. So
bring back Sam Silk from Cleveland.
Yeah, I forgot. Sam Silk just disappeared from my radio waves. But
Ramonski Love.
Yeah. I always remember Ramonski Love because I had a friend in high school and we always called him Ramonski, and it's basically because of that.
Yeah.
So,
crazy Howard McGee and all the women he beat the shit out of.
Yeah. The only fond memory I have of Crazy Howard McGee is Leon Rodgers just talking about like what he learned from him. He's like, I'm trying to think. He was just saying like how his delivery was like he could make anything sound like deep and serious. It's just like, we gotta save these chickens. It's like how he would deliver. All right, so.
Do you remember like the day after that story broke in I think it was like the Sun Times about him beating the shit out of his wife? I think they brought in some pastor or something to like pray with him, and he was like crying or some shit. It was like,
that sounds vaguely familiar.
It was fucking horrible.
But
he's the victim.
Yeah, it's vaguely familiar, but I wasn't that big of a fan of Crazy Howard McGee. That was one of those people that was just like,
I never
show was
listened to
on
him
and my
all.
mom would turn it off. So it's just like, it's one of those guys. I know we have some other stories in the lineup, but we are running a little long today. So was there anything you wanted to hit on before we wrapped up?
Did you see the video of this? I think it was like this white girl who moved to this black neighborhood, like I think it was like in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
Or something, and like she wrote this song and made this video of her rapping about living in the ghetto.
I saw the headline about this, but I have no idea what it was.
Ashley K. Thomas. Ashley spelled ASHLEE.
Oh God, that's the whitest spelling of Ashley, that's for sure.
Yeah, she made this song where she was like rapping about like the drugs and lowriders and flashy rims and gunshots while she's like doing yoga poses and shit in an alley or some shit.
All right.
You have to like see like the video to.
Yeah, I'm seeing a screenshot of it. It's maybe this will be incorporated in the intro for the audio listeners out there.
Yeah, apparently like the comments, the YouTube comments on it were something to behold. Yeah, the name of the song is called Ghetto. Yeah. And like the video, she took the video down after all the comments just shitting all over it.
Yeah,
but nothing dies.
I noticed trying to click on it, like, yep, the video is no longer available. All right, I'm sure someone has downloaded and saved it.
It's nothing dies on the internet.
Yeah, archive.org, baby, and people just download stuff anyway. So yeah. That's something to look out for. All you yoga / hip hop enthusiasts out there. Hip hop yoga, that seems like an untapped market.
Well, yoga is supposed to be soothing and like comforting, and you're supposed to like, be slow with that. I don't understand like how hip hop would.
I mean, you can
Yeah.
do some like smoother hip hop acts. You can do like a Nate Dogg yoga workout. When I met you last night, baby, I put you in the downward dog. I'm sure there's ways to incorporate it. And I'm sure once somebody figures that specific recipe out, then they'll screw me out of my idea. But I had it first. I'll just claim that. Yeah. So, anything else before we wrap up? There's nothing significant wrestling wise that I even want to address. Nothing at all.
Hey, fucking Backlash is coming in Chicago next week.
Yeah, I don't care.
NXT Takeover Chicago's, but I'm more interested in that. I may go.
I will watch it.
Yeah,
and that's all.
I wonder if Billy Kay and Peyton Royce are gonna be.
I don't even know those people.
Oh,
I've heard their names.
Ember Moon.
I know Ember Moon because she does like one of the most devastating finishers that I've ever seen by a male or female. So, yeah.
I would go to that. I may go to that.
All right. If you do, we want a
Saturday.
live report. Want a live report and pictures. Pics or it didn't happen. So, with that, I think we can wrap up for the week. So, where can people reach out to you, Tony Hoffman?
My Twitter handle is @Anthony Hoffman. You can find me on Facebook, Anthony Hoffman. And my Instagram is @Tony Hoffman Chi, Tony Hoffman CHI.
And remember that his DMs are always available.
My BMs too.
Yeah, check out his Instagram for that. I'm available on Twitter @Zach from Chicago. That's ZAC from Chicago. You can see my highly rated and highly liked and retweeted SNL retweets and tweets about other shows in general. And you can check me out on YouTube. I've been in a decent pattern on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Zach Hughes. Throughout the work week, I've been posting pretty much every day. So check out my daily posts. I'm also available on Facebook if you're interested in friending me. But remember, let me know where you came from, that you listen to the podcast. Because, number one, that's good feedback and good data for me to know. And let me know you're not some creepy stranger. Also, you can follow the podcast on Twitter @FrustratedGrad, on youtube.com/FrustratedGrads for the video version. And for the audio version, you can check us out on iTunes, Google Play Podcasts, and wherever podcasts are sold. I mean, they're not sold anywhere, but you can stream them on other services like Stitcher and Play.fit. Anyway. With that, I will say that is it for this episode of the Frustrated Grad podcast. Thanks for watching. If you're watching in lovely 1080p video, and thanks for listening. And that's all you get for today.